want to talk to Paul Kengor. He's the author of the book The Communist. And this is a book that is, I mean, for a really smart, heady, book about Frank Marshall Davis, who's been dead. This book is still selling, flying off the shelves and selling unbelievable numbers. And Paul is here. He's also in the movie 2016. If you've seen that, he explains Barack Obama in 2016 in relation to that mentor of his, Frank Marshall Davis. Paul, welcome to the program.
Hey, Glenn, great to be back. Thanks.
Hey, I want to, first of all, congratulations on the success of the book.
Thanks.
Second of all, there's the tape that has come out on redistribution of wealth, and nobody's really paying attention to this except the usual suspects that know exactly what he means. How do we explain to the average person why that's important? Those people who are saying, you know what, I don't know, he's not that bad, and communism and everything else. How do we explain to the average person what this means?
Yeah, well, this again is rooted in the type of collectivism, redistribution that we heard from people like Frank Marshall Davis. In fact, Glenn, there's a line in the tape where Obama says, I'm looking at a quote, there has been a systematic, I don't think it's too strong to call it a propaganda campaign against the possibility of government action. And I heard that, and I thought, not only does that just generally sound like Frank Marshall Davis, but it reminded me of a Davis piece that he wrote for the Honolulu Record, which was the Communist Party publication in Hawaii, January 1950. And this is a piece by Davis called Free Enterprise or Socialism. And you could guess which one Davis is choosing. And Davis, he's attacking General Motors, he's attacking government profits, he's attacking big business. And he's got this line in there, Glenn, where he said, we have manufactured a national horror of socialism. And I thought of that, and that just sounds like Obama saying, lamenting that there's been this propaganda campaign against government action. Davis at least candidly and correctly called it socialism. Obama a little more carefully calls it government action. But this is the same sort of general philosophy. Both Obama, both Davis, that you need to transfer wealth from the producers, from the wealthy, and not even necessarily the wealthy, but producers generally, to other larger segments of society, and that by doing this, that's their prescription for both Davis and for Obama on how you keep America's economy from getting worse, how you get people back to work, and how you keep the country from going into another depression.
But they will say that, look, this isn't socialism. This isn't, stop with all of your rhetoric of these, these accusatory words that he's a socialist and everything else, or a Marxist. That's not what he means. He just believes that we all have to help each other. He just believes that we're all in this together.
Yeah, well, that's what they say. But again, it's a matter of degree. I heard somebody on Fox last night make the point that, look, Mitt Romney favors a progressive income tax, and that's a form of redistribution as well. Well, yeah, it is. It is to a certain degree, but I'm a free market conservative. I'm not against all taxes. I think we need some taxes, and everybody, I guess, that favors some degree of taxation, that favors some form of redistribution, but it's a matter of how much. And then when you combine that with the sort of incessant class warfare rhetoric that we hear from Obama and Axelrod attacking Paul Ryan and Mitt Romney, profits, corporate executives, greedy corporations, millionaires and billionaires and their fat contracts, Warren Buffett paying less than his secretary in taxes. All of that, that's much more from the far left, more of the class warfare, socialist, collectivist left, than it is anything closer to sort of a modern day moderate Democrat.
Let me go here. And by the way, we're talking to Paul Kengor. He's the author of the book The Communist, the life of Frank Marshall Davis, and the importance of Frank Marshall Davis to the president, because he's the president's mentor. We've never really talked about what you have in the book about David Axelrod and Valerie Jarrett and their connection here.
Yes. Yeah, that's a stunning thing, and people are going to find this hard to believe. But Frank Marshall Davis, Obama's mentor in the 1940s, he was in Chicago. That's when he joined the Communist Party. And back then, he worked in all sorts of communist causes, fronts, campaigns. And among the people that he worked with, and people listen carefully on this, among the people that he worked with, and in fact, this was to nationalize the meat packing industry in Chicago. He worked with Vernon Jarrett, and Vernon Jarrett later became the father-in-law of Valerie Jarrett. He worked in another communist cause with Robert Taylor. Robert Taylor was the grandfather of Valerie Jarrett, and Valerie Jarrett, of course, is Barack Obama's, right-hand woman.
Yeah.
No one's closer to both the Obamas than Valerie Jarrett. Also in Chicago, Frank Marshall Davis, Obama's mentor, worked with the Cantor family, Harry and David Cantor. Now, these people were so far to the left that before they landed in Chicago, they were actually living in the Soviet Union, where they were working for Stalin's government as official translators of Lenin's writings. Now, the Cantors later on in the 1970s would mentor David Axelrod,
Oh my gosh.
who today is Obama's chief campaign strategist. So you've got the political ancestors of the people basically running the country today: Obama, Valerie Jarrett, David Axelrod. Their political ancestors: Frank Marshall Davis, the Cantor family, Robert Taylor, Vernon Jarrett. They all knew and worked together with one another in communist causes, communist fronts, communist campaigns in Chicago in the 1940s.
Okay, so everybody around Barack Obama has always been in this soup, which is why he says things like, "You didn't build that. The buck stops with you." He says all these things that are so not out of the American story that it's just bizarre, and people dismiss it. But because he can say, well, it's just, I just misspoke, or that's not what I meant to say. But it is what he meant to say. When you look at the latest flag flap, if you will, first of all, he wouldn't wear a flag lapel pin. He said, I don't need that to be American. Okay, well, then, maybe, okay, whatever. But then you see a couple of weeks ago, they were laying the flag down at a campaign rally, and his people were involved, and they just put it down on the ground, which you don't ever do. They also the DNC put his face on the flag, and they didn't see a problem with that. The people who were working at his campaign headquarters didn't see a problem with that. Now there's another one where he's replaced the flag, the 50 stars, with the Obama symbol, and again they don't see a problem. This isn't that they necessarily. This isn't anything more than they don't understand or respect the traditions and the culture that most Americans grew up in.
Well, that's exactly right. And Frank Marshall Davis ridiculed the American way. And in fact, in Dreams from My Father, Obama gives his parting advice that he got from Davis before going off to college at Occidental. And it was this diatribe against, quote, the American way and all that blank. And Obama is raised by a mother. Obama's mother and biological father, Glenn, met in a Russian language class at the University of Hawaii in the fall of 1960. The grandfather, Stanley Dunham, who raised him, was so far to the left that when he's looking for a black male father figure, role model, mentor for his grandson, picks Davis, who's a literal card-carrying member of Communist Party USA. So when you see this far-left milieu that he comes from, it's hard to imagine that Barack Obama would believe anything but this.
Yeah, you kind of feel bad. You kind of feel bad because you're like, he grew up the same way, because they image him. He's just like you. But he's not. He's not anything like you. And I don't mean that as a bad thing. And I don't know. Sure. Everybody has to be like me or, somebody else. But he doesn't have any of the upbringing that would give you that love of country or understanding of country. Is there anything?
Well, that's why I think everything that we're doing here is so important and relevant. I mean, between your show, your books like this, the movie by Dinesh D'Souza, I mean, all of that is telling us what the media wouldn't tell us in 2007, right. 2008, Namely, who is this guy?
Okay, so
we're doing the vetting that they refuse to do.
Real quick, because I've got only about a minute. Is there anything that you found when you're doing your research for the book, The Communist, that will help people understand the president's Middle East Israeli policy?
Frankly, not really, because, I mean, on that, Frank Marshall Davis said very little about the Middle East. And that was because in 1948, the Soviets actually favored the creation of the nation of Israel because they were looking to set up a satellite there. So because of that, Davis, who was so pro-Soviet, kind of laid off the Israel issue.
Okay. The name of the book is The Communist. Paul Kengor wrote it, researched it. It is a fantastic book that will give you deep understanding of what you're dealing with. And also, you'll see Paul in the movie 2016, which, if you haven't seen yet, is a movie that you have to bring your friends to. You have to bring anybody who's even close to the fence. You bring it because it is reasoned, it is measured, and you'll understand the psyche of the President of the United States and what's coming our way. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, Glenn. Take care.